The type of content that actually builds trust and gets people to reach out to you is something that nobody in your local market is doing right now. And as a local business owner, if you've been posting on social media and you feel like you've said everything you need to say, or you've tried reels and you tried carousels and you tried posting all these tips and tricks and it's just not turning into leads and clients, there's a reason for that. I've created over 1,200 videos in the past 7 years, and I've generated thousands of leads from it and made over 7 figures in revenue from my content. And in this video, I'm going to show you the exact content strategy that made it all work. Here's what you're probably doing right now. And I know this because I literally did the same thing for years. You're posting short tips about your industry. You're sharing a reel here and there. Maybe you're doing a carousel with 5 things your clients should know, and you're just using AI to do it all. And look, there's nothing inherently wrong with any of that. But there's a reason it's not turning in the leads, and it's not what you think, and that has nothing to do with the algorithm or how often you're posting. You see, any business owner can post tips and tricks and what not to do and what to do, and all of that stuff is great, right? But if you're posting content that can be found on ChatGPT or Claude or Perplexity or Gemini, you're just like everyone else. And that's the real issue right now. Think about it like this. When somebody wants to know something, they ask AI and they get 90% of the answer in like 10 seconds, right? So if your content is just information that they can get from a chatbot, why would they come to you and watch your content? But there is a type of content that AI simply cannot create, and that your competitors are not doing, and that builds trust faster than anything else. The strategy is hyper-local long-form content, and let me break down what that actually means, because it's not just making longer videos, right? There are 2 pieces to this, and you need to know both. The first piece is the local angle, your expertise, what you already know from running your business, combined with your location, the specific area that you live in and that you serve. That combination creates uncopyable content. AI can simply not just replicate it because it doesn't have your specific experience in your specific market. So look, if you're a roofer in Sarasota, Florida, you can talk about which roofing materials hold up best during hurricanes. And if you're a landscaper in Minnesota, you can talk about the best native plants for the soil there. If you're a financial advisor, you can talk about local property tax appeals that nobody else is talking about. You see where I'm going with this? Like, nobody is doing this at a high level. They may have done it in the past, but they're not doing it anymore. So think about it like this. Most business owners are just posting the same generic tips that any business owner in any city can post. But when you anchor your content to your local market, you're creating something that no one else can make, and people in your area connect with it immediately because it's about them and where they live. Now, here's the second piece, and this is the part that actually turns this into leads and clients. So the second piece is the long form content. And I know you've heard people say, create long form content before, but here's what nobody is actually saying about how it works. When you do a 60-second reel or a 30-second reel, it's for attention, right? And look, it's showing people, hey, I'm here, I exist. And the short form algorithms, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube Shorts, TikTok, all that stuff, they push them out. And that's great. I'm not saying that you shouldn't do that. But when you create a longer piece of content, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 15 minutes, and when you're talking about your expertise, again, in your local market, you're not just getting attention anymore, you're building trust, because a 10-minute video is going to show your personality. You're going to share personal stuff. You can relate way more in a 10-minute video than you can in a 60-second video, and you're going to start bringing in things about your life and about your area that connect with people on a way deeper level. And it's really simple. People hire who they know, they like, and they trust. Know, like, and trust. You've heard it a million times, but the quickest way to get people to know you online is to create longer form content where they can sit with you and actually get a feel for who you are as a person. Now, Google has this metric. I think they call it the 4-7-11 rule or something like that. People have to consume 11 hours of your content across 7 different formats and across 4 different platforms before they can start to actually trust you and will actually want to work with you and do business with you. So if all you're doing is short form content, you can put out 10 60-second videos, and that's 10 minutes, or you can do one 10-minute video that's about your local expertise and the local market, and it's going to be less work, and people can consume 10 minutes way quicker in a long form video than 10 minutes in short form video. So when you put those two things together, the hyperlocal content plus the long form content, you get something that nobody in your market can compete with. You're the only roofer in Sarasota making 10-minute videos about hurricane-proof roofing. You're the only landscaper in Minnesota, right? Doing the deep dive on native plants for the soil. But now I want to show you what this actually looked like for me, because I was not good at this when I started, like, at all. So in 2018, on my first YouTube channel, I started making long form videos about the town that I lived in. And I was just me. I wasn't doing an impersonation of me. I was boring, right? Like, it was really bad. I was just standing there being like super awkward. You don't have to be great on camera. No one said you have to be a news reporter, right? Like, I made a video about Riverside Station. It was a development that was coming in my town, and I posted it 7 years ago. Got 3,800 views on YouTube, and I was just standing there bumbling, talking with my phone with like ground in the background, right? And there was nothing special to it at all. And then I started sharing about like road closings, and sharing about how Old Country Buffet was shutting down, and about how Ryan Homes were coming to the area and developing more. And I did a top 10 reasons to live in Downtown video, 11 minutes long, 3,800 views again. Pros and cons of living in my area, 6,000 views. And then I did a video that was 5 places to live here and their affordability, and it got 1,200 views, right? So I started then doing local business interviews with other business owners, 25 minutes, 8 minutes, 12 minutes, right? And people would watch them and they would get to know me over time. But here's where it gets really interesting, because this is where the leads actually start coming in. You know, some years after that, when I was still in real estate, I started creating long form content about owning short-term rentals and helping people buy short-term rentals in the Pocono Mountains. And this was around 2022. So where to buy, what to look out for, and things that people don't know about, because I owned short-term rentals up there and I was operating them. So I had information that people wanted. And I was not going viral. I wasn't getting 20,000, 100,000, millions of views, anything like that. I was getting like 300, 400, 800, a few thousand like here and there. But people reached out because they said, hey, Sean, I've watched your content. I watched all these videos. You know what you're doing. I want you to help me. I want to work with you. And I didn't have to sell them at all. And it's because I was doing hyper local, long form content, right? I was talking about a specific area, sharing my specific expertise, and people could sit with me for 10 minutes or 15 or 20 minutes or an hour or a couple hours, and they would get to actually know me. That's the formula, and it works for literally any local business. So here's why this is such a massive opportunity for you right now, because you probably think like, oh my God, it's way too saturated. I can't get in there, right? No, people do not stay consistent with it. Here is a crazy stat I heard about long form content, because it's not just videos, you can do podcasts as well. In 2020, 1 million new podcasts were started. 1 million, that's insane, right? But more than 46% of those podcasts are completely gone today. And since then, we've been averaging like 150, 200,000. And every year, right, 90% of people who start a podcast do 3 episodes and never post again. 3. So you hear 200,000 podcasts and you're like, that's way too crowded. But when you understand that 90% of them fade, you're like, oh my gosh, that's like 185,000, whatever the math is. Stop posting after 3 episodes. So you just got to start, be frequent with it, stay consistent, and post 4 or 5 times, and you're in the top 10%. That's it. That's all you have to do. And this applies, again, to all long-form content, not just podcasts. So we're talking YouTube videos. You can put long-form videos on Facebook as well with playlists, long-form written post, email newsletters, Substack, right? Like the people who think it's too saturated are looking at the number of people who started, not the number of people who actually stick with it. And the ones who stick with it are the ones who win. And here's another thing that makes this even better for you. The content that AI is flooding right now is the generic stuff, the short tips, the how-tos, the 5-list stuff. And that's getting absolutely eviscerated by business owners online right now. But AI cannot replicate you sitting in front of a camera with the background of your neighborhood, right? They cannot do that. That's uncopyable content. And that's exactly what you need to be doing right now. There's a massive opportunity and it's not going away. Look, this isn't going to be successful for you overnight. I've been creating long form content since 2018, right? And posted well over 1,200 videos. And I'm not saying that you need to do that, but you need to be realistic with the time frame because long form content compounds and it works for you when you sleep. Now you know what to create, but where do these people actually go? How do you build a place where your ideal clients show up, engage, and eventually reach out and hire you without you having to sell? That's what I'm breaking down in this video here, so make sure you watch it next.